Yo, Mad Doggy Dog in the bazillion. Big card, big press conference, big baby Miller. Big baby Miller was talking that ish. He was talking that ish, boy. You gotta say, round of applause to Big Baby because he really woke that press conference up. But we're gonna get to that. Okay, I already done a video, but I watched it back. I thought it was rubbish, so I'm gonna do this one. It's gonna be short, sharp, to the point. First things first, right? Clearly what's happened here is December 23rd was supposed to be Fury versus Usyk. And Frank Warren being the lead promoter of the lead fighter, being Tyson Fury, it was essentially contractually up to him as to whether or not they wanted to move off that date and then vacate that. And so clearly what's happened is that they've done a deal where Frank keeps that date and he keeps the budget that was already associated with that. There's going to be a new date, which is probably going to be announced tomorrow for Usyk versus Fury. And Frank has therefore got a special status as the lead promoter for this card. Because if you notice, Dev Saini, who's associated with Queensberry Promotions, was the host. Frank spoke first, Frank spoke last in between the head-to-heads, right? Even before Joshua versus Varlin, Frank was standing there. Whereas normally you would imagine that Eddie Hearn would be there standing in between the two fighters when it's his fighter. But no, Frank was stood right there. And yeah, I think the way the whole press conference was architected, it was clear that Frank was the Don. Yeah. And this is his card and it's his budget, and everybody else has had to play nicey with him to get this happen in such a short space of time. Now, let's get to the verbal warfare. Who won, who lost, you know what I mean? Who got dominated. And you'd have to start off with Big Baby Miller absolutely violated Daniel Dubois, boy. Daniel Dubois looked like a butler. He was dressed like he should be handing out canapes. He should be handing out Prosecco. Yeah. He had no retort, no resistance. Uncle Frank had to help him out. Yeah. He got absolutely done. And I hope he's got more resistance in the ring. I really do. Yeah, so Big Baby fired shots at everyone. He fired shots at Deontay. He fired shots at AJ. AJ tried to give him the tough guy act. You know what I mean? But I think AJ, he seemed very much out of his element. Let's be honest. He felt, you get them dudes, yeah, that like to be in control. You get them dudes, like, even sometimes with your mates, where they don't want to come out nowhere unless it was their idea, unless they were the one organizing everything. I mean, and AJ, it's been a long time, to be fair. You can understand why. It's been a long time. He's had to be in a situation where he's not the main event on the card, right? He's not the A side. He's not the Don Don. It's not his promoter, right, organizing the thing. And you saw it a couple of times, but he said to Dev, "You're not my promoter. Don't ask me no questions, right?" And it's like, why isn't Eddie asking me the questions? He was clearly, and now he would have been briefed beforehand, so he's clearly signed up to something that he was uncomfortable with, right? And but in terms of the back and forth, Varlin jabbed him saying that, yeah, he was a good fight in 2018. I helped him out for Charles Martin, who also a southpaw, obviously. And but now he's had his peak, right? And Joshua came back with a sharp comeback. People talking about, I've had my peak. These are dudes that ain't even had, you know what I mean, don't even know what peak is, right? Because they've never had one. Which was clever, but ultimately you could tell his mind wasn't really on Varlin. He was there because it's a good business opportunity. And yeah, uncomfortable though. He had a lot to say in the head-to-head as well with Varlin afterwards. He seemed like he wanted to do something to the Big Baby, but he's like, again, uncomfortable is the word, right? In his surroundings. Deontay didn't really have a lot to say. He's kind of in that kind of mind space where he's just been smoking on that CBD, or trying some of that ayahuasca, or trying some of that mushrooms, or whatever the hell. I mean, maybe he's even on toad. Yeah, maybe he's on that DMT. Yeah, but yeah, the chat wasn't really saying much. Parker really tried to come across quite assertive and quite willing, and spoke about how Fury's been giving him a lot of advice. And yeah, personally, I don't think it's going to do much good because you can be as mentally switched on as you like, but physically, when you ain't got it no more, you ain't got it no more. So I guess and the other guys, it seems like the way it's been set up is that there's a lot of people who are making decisions very quickly to jump on board, and the only way they're doing it is if they're getting a lot of money to fight guys who are not very good. Yeah, so guys like Caballero, guys like Frank Sanchez, guys like yeah, guys like who else is on the card? Caballero, Frank Sanchez, Hergovic, yeah, they're all fighting like nothing fights, yeah, and clearly the plan is let's just get everyone working together, and then the winners will face off, right? And so, and it's probably the reason why Bivol was fighting fighting fucking Lyndon Arthur. Like, who gives a shit about that? It's because there's a certain amount of money, yeah, to get everyone on the card, and it's probably a case where it would have been much better to get Anthony Yard versus Bivol. Anthony Yard's obviously Frank Warren fighter, but if Bivol's only going to get X amount, then he wants to fight a bum. He wants to fight Lyndon Arthur, right? And then in the next one, and they made a few references to that in the next card, everyone's then going to be in bigger and bigger fights. So Joshua will fight Wilder, right? And Frank Sanchez will fight Hergovic, right? And then Daniel Dubois will fight Ajit Caballero, or whatever combination of that. Caballero fights Frank Sanchez, Hergovic fights Daniel Dubois, right? Who knows? Maybe Bivol steps up and fights Jaya Pataya, or Bivol fights Anthony Yard in the next Riyadh season event. It could be like that, because now there is a space towards the back end of pause of Riyadh season, because these guys are fighting December 23rd. Usyk Fury is going to get announced for the back end of February, and then at the back end of March, right, which is still 3 months away from this card. Yeah, all of these dudes fighting could be facing off against each other. Do you know what I'm saying? So that's going to be the big thing to look forward to. And yeah, exciting, very pragmatic by everyone involved. But listen, money will do that to you. You know what I mean? If you say, hey, listen, here's the money, and there's even more money after this at the back end of March, do you want it, yes or no? Yeah, we'll shut the fuck up then. Yeah. But the big question, get in the comments to let me know what you think, is who's gonna fight as the main event? Is it going to be Joshua versus Varlin, or is it going to be Wilder versus Parker, right? Maybe Joshua's agreed to do his head-to-head second, and to speak second to last, and blah blah blah, and let Wilder be the main event in all the build-up, because he wants to be the main event in the fight itself. He's the guy who's fought in Saudi Arabia twice before, and he's the bigger name. Let's be honest. He's like, economically, Joshua's the biggest guy on the card. Or it could just be Frank Warren doesn't want to do that. He wants his man Joseph Parker to be in the main event against Wilder, and Joshua's just lucky to be on the card. And yeah, we'll see. But yeah, get in the comments with that. Peace.